Hello, I'm Will Peters, Production Manager of the Wisconsin Trigger Company. The point of this video is to help you with the installation and tuning of our newest model of the Milazzo Krieger platform, the MK2A2 Tactical Trigger. Before we get started, I'd like to go over some of the new features it has. The biggest change is to the tail of the trigger housing. We have preset the over travel at the factory, so there is no need to trim the tail down to fit your particular receiver. So what is over travel? Over travel is a distance the trigger moves rearward after the hammer is released. We did this for two reasons. Number one, it will make the installation much simpler for your gunsmith. Number two, we wanted to have a little more over travel than with the MK2 setup for use in a match rifle. This is a tactical trigger. It's built with speed in mind, so you will need a bit more over travel. When you pull a trigger fast, you tend to jerk back a little harder. You can't help it. This jerking will tend to point the muzzle down and to the side, and then you miss. You can practice and train to lessen this jerking, but no one is perfect. With a bit more over travel, you get some free play to work with and stop your finger before you hit the end of the trigger travel. With a target rifle, you tend to pull the trigger slowly and more precisely. Your finger has time to stop, so you need less over travel. If you have too much over travel in a tactical style gun, it can cause you to slow down your finger and make the trigger feel slow and spongy. So we preset the over travel to 20 to 30 thousandths of an inch. The amount will vary with the quality of the receiver, but this amount is faster than a GI trigger and more forgiving than the 5 to 15 you find in a target rifle. The next new feature is the new short reset disconnector. The MK2A2 will reset much shorter than the old MK2. Much faster than a GI style single stage trigger as well. This will allow you to fire very fast in a tactical situation if needed. So what you have in the new MK2A2 is a very fast tactical trigger with the world-class release of the MK2 match trigger. It's the best of both worlds in one trigger. One other feature is the after reset travel. This is a distance a trigger can move forward after the hammer resets. This feature cuts down on slapping the trigger. That's when you move forward to reset the hammer and your finger comes off the trigger. The problem is the trigger stops and your finger does not. Now you start to pull the trigger and you slap it or jerk it. With the small amount of reset after travel, your finger is always on the trigger with the first stage spring pushing on it. Your finger will not lose contact with the trigger and you will reduce trigger slap a ton. The more practice you do, the less this is a problem. But hey, no one is perfect. All these little things add up to a better score and more accurate shooting. All right, let's start the installation. First thing, we'll go through the box. There's a guarantee card, the installation manual, which is very important. You should definitely read through that. A lot of safety precaution information in there. We have the disconnector spring chart, magnet, sticker, another sticker, and another sticker. But the good stuff is under the second piece of foam. We have the trigger housing, the hammer, spring set, and the pins. The first thing you need to do is select your disconnector spring. All MK2 models come with the blue medium 4.5 pound spring installed. If you want to add some pull weight, you can change out the blue for the white spring. If you want less pull weight, swap in the red spring. You can always remove the trigger and switch the spring later if you'd like. You will not need to readjust the disconnector when you replace a spring. More on adjusting that later though. So let's get on with the installation. I've already put the trigger spring on here. Just make sure that that's seated properly, and we can start by dropping into the receiver right away. Use one of the new pins supplied with your MK2. Doesn't matter which way it goes in, it doesn't matter which pin you use for the trigger housing. Now these are press fit, so you're going to want to have a punch and a hammer. Good. Next we'll do the hammer. And as you can see, I've already put the spring on this as well. This is always the trickiest part. Now when you put the hammer in, you have to make sure that the grooves on the pin here go in last, and you're pushing from left to right. Same story. Grab a hammer and a punch. And carefully tap it in. Reinstall the safety selector and you're ready to set the second stage. Next, we're going to set the disconnector. Okay, now we are going to get around to setting your second stage. This is the most important part of the fine tuning. It's literally the heart of the trigger system here. So how we're going to go about that is by adjusting the height of this disconnector. And how we do that is turning this screw. So grab an Allen wrench, and you can see once I hit a certain point, it moves the disconnector very minutely, but it does move it. And for this first part, I'm going to screw it in as far as I can. What we're going to be doing is finding the point where you pull the trigger back and it contacts the face of the disconnector. That's your second stage. By turning it all the way in, I remove that. There is no contact. It is essentially a single stage trigger right here. So what I'm going to do is take the Allen wrench, turn it out in small increments until I do have contact there. And it looks like we've hit it right on the nose there. You're gonna have to do this a few times. But now we're gonna turn it back in to the exact point where we lose that contact again. This is your 0 point. Very close. And there it is. We have lost the second stage. At this point, and this is what the instruction manual will tell you, turn that screw 3/8 of a turn out. It's as simple as that. That's where you want your second stage set. We absolutely do not recommend lessening it more than that. All right, now that we've got the second stage correctly set, we have everything installed properly, we're going to apply some Loctite. And how I like to do this is I make a little mark on the top of the screw, and I line that up with a point on the receiver. Then I will take my Allen wrench and back it out 4 turns. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you take your Loctite, red or blue works. My favorite is the red. Apply it as per Loctite's instructions. Now turn the screw back in 4 turns. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now check to make sure that that point on the receiver lines up with the mark you made again. And if it does, great. You're good to go. Now let it set. And that's all you have to do. Okay, so now you've let the Loctite dry. Let's go over everything one more time. Let's check for some safety engagement. That's pretty good. Now it's a lot easier to see on the cutaway here, but if you look in your own receiver, you can look in there and see how much the sear surfaces are overlapping. And I don't know, it feels great to me. It feels very safe. And let's test the second stage a couple of times, make sure we got it where we want it. And I like that. Very nice and crisp. So that's all there is to it. you've got everything set up, go pop your upper back on and take it down to the range. Try it out. All right, well, that's all there is to it. If you have any more questions, go ahead and give us a call. Check out our website, follow us on Twitter, you can like us on Facebook, and thanks for watching.